Cold empathy is a narcissist trait, and what it means is that even though they can understand empathy intellectually and even learn to show empathy when the time is right, they don't experience the emotional component of empathy. That's why it's called cold empathy, as distinct from warm empathy, which is normal empathy, where you would have both. Most normal people couldn't fathom such a distinction at all. The difference between cold and warm empathy. For normal people, there's just one form of empathy, and that's it. To not understand the concept of cold empathy is to misunderstand just about everything in this world. There's cold empathy everywhere. In journalism, for example. So let's go back to, let me give you an example. Better yet, I'll just give you an example. Supposing there's a shooting and it involves children, and you have the journalist interviewing the parents, and the journalist, the interviewer has these tears in their eyes, and they're sad, and then they proceed to ask the parents, well, how did you feel when little Sally, looking at her Christmas presents under the tree and knowing that she's never coming back? And I've actually heard stuff like this before. And you're sitting there watching it thinking, you know, that's not a very empathic or nice thing to say. But you don't understand the distinction between cold and warm empathy, you see. So you assume, well, surely, you know, they're sitting there crying and wiping tears away. They've got to have empathy. They're distraught over the tragedy. Well, and then you pass it off and you make an excuse and you say, well, it's journalism. Somebody's got to do it. So you can see the cold empathy in journalism. Also in politics. Cold empathy in politics. We're going to do this for this group, that group over there. All kinds of disenfranchised minorities. And then, of course, you don't really mean it. You don't have to mean it. It was cold empathy. You manipulated them into voting for you. So there's cold empathy in politics, primarily on the left, I would think. There could be some of that on the right, but I think it's primarily on the left. And then, of course, the most dangerous, cold empathy in socialism, would enable you to mobilize countless groups of people to come together as one unit, whatever group they may be, to come together as one unit and say, but you don't really care about them, you're just using them to destabilize. Now, I'm not saying that the left is a bunch of cold empathy psychopaths or narcissists that use cold empathy to manipulate, and they're going to put your head on the chopping block because they don't really care about you, and they're going to finish you off once they're done with you. But I can tell you one thing, you had better know about cold empathy and how it relates to narcissism, journalism, politics, and socialism.